everyone. So we're live here. It's a rainy day in Vancouver. So the rain's come back right to us, and it's hit us again. And that's when the eagles usually come, when it's rainy. So I'm going to flip over and show you where we are right now. Hi, Nichole. So I can see you. The highway is right behind me. So I should have quite a good mic with me, so it should be possible to hear me. But I'm just going to flip the camera so you can see, despite the rain, quite a lot of people have come. So that's what's going on in front of us. This is about the Croydon nest. You may remember a couple of weeks ago, I was at the site where the nest had, or the nest tree had been taken down, and nobody quite knew who did it, although there's some suspicions. Sound is great. That's very good. Hi, Osprey Mama. That's great. So you can see there are quite a few photographers here. The press is here, and so on. So there's quite a lot going on, and it's right next to the highway, so it may be a little bit noisy. I think if the weather had been better, the turnout would have probably been much better, but anyway, they they did quite a lot. So the location where we are, in case you're wondering, so we're right next to Highway 99. I'll show you that. We're right next to Highway 99, and hi Dana, I see you all, very nice that you're here. And it's on 24th and 160th Street, so you can look that up on the map, right there where 160th goes into Croydon. So more and more people are coming now. You can see that. So it's, anyway, it's a big event. So what's the idea of doing this? Why is this being done? The reason why this is being done is that first of all, such terrible events should be prevented in future, where trees are just brought down because of greed. That's basically what it's about. It's about making money, although there's no proof. All the evidence is pointing in that direction. 1 second, what is going on? Here we go. All that evidence is pointing in that direction. And the other reason is there are laws everywhere in North America to protect wildlife, but they're not really enforced. They're not enforced. And we had the same issue, the same discussion in the United States, where laws are not properly enforced. So this is what all the protest is really about. And it's surprising that despite the weather, so many people have turned up, you know. Hi Carrie, Dana, I see Osprey, Mama, Mac Lady. Very nice to have you all here. So there's a lot of, I think this is going to be on TV later. And David Hancock is amongst all these eagles. I found my way here, by the way, just following the signs of the eagle. So it's not exactly there where the nest is, or the nest was cut down, but it's purposely put here because it draws more attention, right? So let me take a walk and see what's going on. So Christian, do you know what the final number of the petition will be? I don't know yet. I have to find out. But that's easy to find out. That's easy to find out. I can find out. Gosh, the rain has come back here. It's quite incredible. So we'll see. Yes. So there seems to be a gathering there, so I'm just going to walk along, and we'll see what goes on. But you can see it's right next to the highway. Okay, so it's a big thing here in Vancouver. Hi, lots of people I know here, of course. Hi, Diana. No thanks. Okay. Well, I think we can pass some of the rain over to you in Florida. That's fine. So let's see what's going on there anyway. So we'll walk over there. So David Hancock is just in the middle there, and he's just put on an eagle mask. Well, he's an eagle anyway, So let's listen.
Can you hear me? Is that right? I mean, we had a sound speaker, but we were a little bit leery of setting it up on the private property, but nobody said we can't be here, so we're here. So thank you for coming. I'm sorry we brought you rain, but that's the way it goes. Did you plan to say a few things because you were going to be the MC? So
nothing too much. Welcome to everybody. It's very nice to meet you. I'm Mike Steer. I'm one of the board members of Hancock Foundation. But David is obviously the hero of the moment. We're preaching to the choir here. I'm quite sure nobody is here who's going to make who's going to say no, this is a load of nonsense. Unfortunately, it's beyond the choir that we need to lead our voices. Nobody here is going to disagree with me if I say it is absolutely outrageous that someone has chopped down a nest. I'm quite sure you agree. But the bigger question, of course, is there's a lot of people out there and they're not going to hear. I doubt if they'll disagree either, but they're not going to hear unless we raise our voices. Apart from the vandalism of this nest, which goes really without saying, there is, I think it's fair to say, a much broader picture. And that is not just this eagle's nest, but what is the value of green space in our urban development? Anyone who's seen an
That's
eagle
Dr. Michael
for the
Sear.
rest of the day. Seeing wildlife adds to our lives. Do we view this green space as just something that, oh, you idiots are wasting your time, concrete it over and make some money? Or do we, as an essential central factor of town planning, include green space in that planning so that our lives are enriched by the extraordinary diversity of animals that are moving into our green spaces? Again, I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm sure it's of no surprise to any of you. Not only have we got a bald eagle's nest here, I was walking around the sand up there. There are deer prints. There's a bit of bear poop up there, actually. And of course, there are coyotes. Anywhere you go in Vancouver, there is going to be wildlife, especially if there's water. If there's water, you're going to see otters and beavers. It's extraordinary, the animals that have done us the privilege of coming to live with us. So those are the two areas. We have to raise our voices so that people who are not here today agree with us. It is absolutely astounding that someone, some bonehead with a chainsaw, could chop down an active eagle's nest. But also, one would hope that we can start this debate that's central, not just a small side issue, but central to town planning, is the inclusion of green spaces and the wildlife that they contain as an essential part of the planning of our future development in urban spaces. So thank you. It's a great pleasure to meet all of you. I hope I have time to talk to all of you.
thank you, Mike. So that's really the essence. Oh, we've already got a nest pole here. I just see it. Excellent. It's a bit small. It's a bit small, but sometimes there will be smaller eagles than others. We tend to have bigger eagles, but so again, I really am so pleased you're here. I'm sorry we didn't break nicely on the weather for you. Let me just say a couple of things. Surrey and Delta, our next door neighbor, are probably the two most densely populated cities in the world with eagles. We have the best bald eagle habitat of anywhere in the world. Around Boundary Bay that we share with Delta, this bay from Lily Point, we have another eagle enthusiast from looks after the Lily Point nest here with us today. In that arc of the Boundary Bay, probably a dozen miles of shoreline, which would have had the largest breeding density, except that there's no trees left. There's one tree, not even a very big one, that's got a pair of nesting eagles in it for the last couple of 3 years. And there's only one nest in the entire arc of that bay on the shoreline. There should have been 15 or 20 there. The only reason they're not there, the food is all there, it's just that we have taken down all the trees. Hi there, good to see you, Jack. So I guess my point is as an eagle biologist, I've had to watch over 50 eagle nests just get chopped down in the last number of years. And the whole point of it is, there is a law. It's the British Columbia Wildlife Act. And it says these trees are supposed to be, and the eagles are supposed to be protected 12 months of the year. And here is a prime example of somebody who's just totally and absolutely disregarded that purely, we believe, for profit. And there is in the Wildlife Act a way of overcoming this, of punishing, of getting compensation. It's partly called mitigation. And that's what we want to ensure. I, who gets called to speak on behalf of eagles, wants to see another pole, another tree or artificial pole, and a nest on it. We know from the last number of years of experimenting that when the trees get thinned out, we're capable of going in and modifying a remainder tree and kind of making it a bit more supportive of one of these great 6-8 foot nests, and the eagles come in and nest it. If you watched our cameras, the ones at White Rock and Delta, these are all in nests that we've constructed for them. We give them a framework and the eagle says, "Oh, isn't that wonderful?" And they build their nest on top of the framework that we have put in. We've gone to the other extreme. When somebody has actually taken the nest right out, all the trees right out, we put in artificial poles. And just a bit north of us here in Richmond, this year, one of the nearby nests raised 2 young. And it's a pole like this with a nice nest on top. And the birds have been in there for the last few years, raising young every year. So there are ways of mitigating this loss of these trees. We want to keep the trees. That's the biggest thing. We want to keep a habitat around them. But when somebody disregards it, or there is some kind of need, we put up, in fact, that nest that I just referred to in Richmond, that was on a government right-of-way, an off-ramp. And they had to take out the nest because it was on a right-of-way of a highway. Well, the government saw that we put in a pole and a nest, and it's got eagles in it. So we can do this. It's an extreme, but Surrey is an extreme. Those of you, I've been living out here in South Surrey since 1981, and it's devastating what's happened. This big development to the north of us here, there's just not parks in it. It's an atrocity. What's happening in these housings, it's just total disregard for the fact that we are supposed to be part of supernatural British Columbia, and I can't help but stress that. And we're not being part of supernatural British Columbia. We're letting that down. So I guess I'm so pleased to see people here. We've had really wonderful media coverage to tell people, not just here, but for the rest of the province, because the BC Wildlife Act is a province-wide act. It protects the eagle and the eagle trees throughout the province. There has been a failure, that's the best word, a failure of the province to see that the act was enforced. There's a new attitude on the horizon that says, in a sense, what's happened is inexcusable. Enough is enough, is the simplest way of saying it. The law, good on you. Enough is enough, and we simply want to get our eagles back. We could. At the moment, the city of Surrey, well, the day the tree came down, I sat there with the people from the lands department. They are talking on their cell phone to the major office, I assume the city hall. They say to me, "David, get a pole, put the nest up. When do you put it up by?" And I said, "By September 10th. They said,
"You're
"Great."
welcome."
Well, that was on the 24th or 5th, or whatever it was now, of July. Since then, it's been, well, maybe we better hold off for a moment. We haven't worked this out with the developer. Well, the point is the developer needs to work it out with the citizenry. And I think we're not in favor of what has happened. So, in a sense, those of you who have not been here, nobody's kicked us off the property. So I'll walk you over to the tree. It's a sad sight. A bald eagle nest lying on the ground is not a positive thing. There's really a memorial stump that's there, growing 60-something years. You don't get these trees without a lot of effort. If it had been a Douglas fir, it almost had to be 100, 110 years old to support a bald eagle nest. So losing these treasures is really a great loss to the community. And so we need to see this put back, not just as an artificial pole, which will hold the birds in the meantime, as we've just done a little bit south of here in another development. They have made what is City of Surrey's first bald eagle preserve. That development went forward on the basis that they wanted to preserve the eagle's nest that was on their property. And they've set aside a whole number of trees, not as many as one would like, but they've set aside some, and it's the City of Surrey's first bald eagle preserve. I want to see that we not only have an eagle's nest back here, but that maybe it will become the City of Surrey's second bald eagle preserve. We just need, yes, we need to do something to stand up a little stronger. Now, what?
Brevity is the soul of
yeah, brevity is the soul of it. So I asked if anybody wanted to come and speak a word or two, more brevity than mine. So if there's anybody here who wants to, one of the other groups wants to speak to this, please stand yourself forward.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
Good. This is Mark Dalton.
That's
You guys
Mark
asked,
Dalton.
So, I'm here on behalf of the White Rock and Surrey Naturalists, and David and Mike asked us and all the other groups if we would say something, and so I've just got a little written sort of support for what we would think to do. Our president.
Can you speak up, please?
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not loud enough. Okay. Public education and awareness is one of the goals of the White Rock and Surrey Naturalists. And our president, Liz Walker, is at Campbell Valley Park this weekend. In fact, there's a Campbell Valley Park country celebration going on. Liz is there with a display on eagles and herons in the nature house. So she's in there nice and warm and dry. Here we are. But anyway, she does a lot, so she deserves it. So I'm going to read this on her behalf. The theme of the White Rock Surrey Naturalists, along with the other naturalist societies who belong to BC Nature, is know nature and keep it worth knowing. We have to understand what is happening in the natural world around us and protect what we have. After all, we are part of nature, and to respect it is to also respect ourselves. Human beings are relative latecomers compared to most species of plants and animals, and yet we have managed, with disregard and with phenomenal speed, to wield catastrophic changes upon the environment that is our home, sustaining all life as we have known it. The loss of this large tree.
Thank you for the donations. Thank you, all of you.
Of the human disregard for that balance of nature that sustains life. Thankfully, not all humans have this disregard, and as validated by your concern and your presence here today, there are those of us who care. The members of the White Rock Surrey Naturalists strive to educate others and engage in stewardship activities to support a healthy environment for ourselves and other forms of life around us. We support the efforts of the Hancock Wildlife Foundation to replace the lost bald eagle nest and to establish the Eagle Preserve around the nest, and we call for stricter, enforceable regulations to protect our mature trees that provide so much for us and the wildlife that depend on their presence. Trees have families too. Thank you from Liz Walker and the White Rock and Surrey Naturalists.
Thank you, Mark.
Welcome.
Anybody else with a word or two?
Here I will.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Lots of people speaking. That's very good.
I'm Jeff Butts. I've been with Eagle Skynet from Point Roberts, Washington, and I've been working with David for over a decade. because we both recognize that eagles don't really care about the border, that they cross it all the time. And so we need to get a united effort that we all speak up on both sides of the border to put pressure on our leaders, on the communities.
Thank you, Gary.
So,
Thank you, Corporal.
this is typical. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir today, I know. And it's easy to reach 10, 15% of people, but it's really hard to meet that next group of people. But events like this go a long way towards building a movement. And I just think it's important to realize that the trees support all the life, and the shorelines especially are the riparian zones, where 80% of life functions are carried out by all our wild creatures here. So we have to stop the destruction of trees, and I just want to thank David for putting this on. And I mean, that side over there, that is really sad.
Okay.
Really sad.
Thanks.
No,
Some more speakers, even across from the US. Isn't that fantastic? You just heard that.
My name is Holly Aronson, and my partner Kevin Wright and we're with the band called The Wilds, and we produce music about ecology, and we have a song. We've recycled a song in honor of today. It's called Skin Drum. Are you ready to bang the skin drum? Are you ready to bang the skin drum? Do you hear the heartbeat of the sun? Do you hear our mother talking? You must be the one, you must be the one. Now it's time to listen to the skin drum. Are you ready to bang the skin drum? Do you hear those who came before you? Listen to the eagles calling through the trees, rising on the updraft, calling us to see the past and the future for 7 generations. Honor and respect, the gifts of creation. Are you ready to bang the skin drum? Do you hear our elders calling? We must be the ones, we must be the ones. Warriors, listen to the skin drum. Grandmother Moon, Grandfather Sun, you are the heartbeat of the skin drum. Brother River, sister trees, you understand when the wind speaks. Auntie clouds, uncle stars, we must relearn your natural laws. Listen to the eagles calling through the trees, rising on the updraft, calling us to see the past and the future for 7 generations. Honor and respect, the gifts of creation. Are you ready to bang the skin drum? Please sing with me.
You could sing along.
Ready to bang the skin drum? One more time. Are you ready to bang the skin drum?
Very good.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Well, anybody else coming forward?
There you are.
Hello everyone.
You have to speak loudly.
Yeah, my name is Rajesh Jayaprakash. You can call me Raj. I'm part of a bunch of citizens in Surrey who really got frustrated with the things happening in the city hall and city Surrey. We were a transportation advocacy group, but we decided, we want to be part of the system to improve the system. So we are 5 people banding together and running for the council actually this time. We developed a platform. That's where I met Liz Walker. So we went and talked to different people from different walks of life, and for the environment we kind of consulted with Liz Walker and
we're quite a bit from the border still.
So we are running for the council. We really appreciate some of you guys taking care of the environment or advocating for it. We tried from our part. We conducted a panel discussion and open house in the Semiamu library. Unfortunate to say that it was the least attended event. We conducted event about transportation, crime. They were all very well attended. But when it comes to environment, sad to say that there were not as many people. But now I'm happy. At least there is a minority of people who are caring. It's nice to see. Very glad you guys are doing this. Thank you, David.
You're very welcome, but we want to make it a majority, not a minority.
Yeah.
Because most of us who live here, we don't need any more of this crap that's gone on. That's the whole point. So,
Yeah.
yes.
We are trying to be part of the system. Okay, maybe I'll take a few more seconds. Our environmental platform, we have 2 angles or 2 aspects. We want to restore the trees that are already lost in Surrey. So we want a specific restoration program, similar to what happened in Tokyo. Some of you might know, they had a very specific restoration program in Tokyo after the World War.
You're most welcome.
Different parts of the country did that. So we are trying to do something like that here. So actually it's on our t-shirts and all the websites and everything. And we also want to link the environment to be linked to the development approvals as well as the final occupancy permits. The way currently it's being done is, there's a $400 charge or $1,000 or $2,000 charge, which is basically nothing for a big developer. We want to link this approval to the environment. So we have a green canopy count. That's the way we are trying to enforce it. Check our website. Details are on the website. I don't want to bore you with all the details here. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anybody else about to say? I don't want to be cutting anybody off. So I'm going to walk over to where
Thanks for all the
the
donation.
disaster
That's
was,
really
where the
wonderful. I
nest is
appreciate
lying
that.
on the ground, and anybody who hasn't seen it will see it. It's not a very nice sight, but it's what it is.
So we're going to walk over to the nest site now.
Hi.
David, say hi. Hi, David.
Good to see Sassy live. Yeah. Good to see your group. Thank you. All right, so we're going to walk over here.
Okay, so we'll take a bit of a walk in the rain now. Yeah, you may have to go back. It's worth watching. It's very nice to see such initiatives. And I haven't seen anything like this for years here. So it's good that there's a wake-up call. What I think is quite touching, you saw that there was an eagle expert. I think Butt is his name. I've seen him on, I've seen some of his YouTube videos and so on. And he spoke on behalf of the US, and I'm sure those of you who are watching would agree that this has to be a cooperation, because eagles have no boundaries. So you can call it eagles without boundaries. Yes, I'm sorry it is happening to our trees. I'm reading all your comments, by the way. If I'm not commenting, it's not that I'm not seeing them. It's just I'm trying to, I'm trying to respect people who are speaking, and I want you to get the most of it. So I'm seeing all your comments very much. So we are coming from the other side. You may remember that we walked in from Croydon, so we're actually coming from the other side this time. See all these high, oops, sorry, let me just bring the camera a bit so you can see what the surrounding looks like. So those of you who haven't seen this before, you can go back in my stream and you'll see that I did a live broadcast when the weather was a lot better. Well, but rain is part, that's what gets the eagles back. They actually, especially here in the north west, they actually like the rain. And as you know, in Alaska, they like the cold and they do very well. So this is this ugly site now that you're seeing, where the eagle tree was deliberately, with a chainsaw, they damaged the tree and then the whole tree came down. And you can see where David is standing right now, that's where the nest was. So we're on the top end of the tree. Yes, it's nice to witness such interest, I agree. Yeah, on Google Maps, Iodora, you'll find, I'll try and go a bit closer, 1 second.
Can I just take 2 minutes of your time? It might help if I give you some context to this nest. I'm sure some of you are familiar with bald eagles, but not everybody. When David started studying eagles when he was a babe, something over 60 years ago, there were 3 eagles' nests in the lower mainland, just 3. There are now, in this area we follow, David follows nearly 500. 500, it's incredible. The lifestyle that is behind, that is behind this nest, those eagle pairs that have a nest return here in October. So if you come past here in October, you'll see a couple of forlorn eagles sitting in these trees, probably saying, WTF, probably.
Yeah, that's it.
And they are very strongly drawn to their nest. They will be sitting in these trees thinking, what on earth is going around here? They settle down, mend their nests over the winter, start to breed in early spring. The mum is a really careful mum, sits on that egg come what may, bad weather, good weather. The chicks will be out 35 days later, and they grow at a fantastic rate, like dinosaurs, not like humans. They'll start off as a tiny little thing about this size, and they're the size of the parents in about 10 weeks. And the parents are about, good sized females, about 10 pounds. Good sized males, about 8 pounds. They grow like crazy. They start to edge out onto these branches, these 2 babies they had here, at around 12 weeks of age. And then they pluck up their courage and they take their first flights, and then they're gone by July. The parents after that are not great parents. They'll let them stay in the area and feed them for a little bit, but after that, off you go. We have got a grant from Molson's, and we've put tags on 5 eagles because no one knows where they go. And the answer is they go up the coast, generally up the coast to Alaska. And these 2 birds are probably sitting up on the estuary of a river up in Alaska eating salmon. When that river freezes over and they come to the salmon, they say time to go home. And they will come back here as I say, beginning of October. So they're away catching salmon from about August, September, beginning of October. The whole thing starts again. In the record, paleontological record, the oldest eagle is 60 million years. These birds have been doing this for 60 million years. It's unbelievable. Can you understand the mindset of someone?
I'm not that old either. So,
Can you understand the mindset of someone who lets a bird go through this cycle, not once or twice, but for 60 million damn years, and then say, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll chop the damn tree down. It is beyond any understanding. So that is what we want to get the point across, that this has been going on for a lot longer than we've been here, and should be allowed to go on for a lot longer than it is now. We need to care for these things, that's obvious, but we also need to look at the bigger picture, which is to care for wildlife in the broader context of urban planning. Thank you for your time.
Good. Thank you, Mike. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions. We'll certainly attempt to answer them. But yes, you have a question.
Yeah, okay, so you said that the eagle, when it matures, it leaves the nest around July.
Yeah.
When was this tree cut down?
This
The day after they
what
left.
happened this year
Oh, is
was
that right? I was under the impression that it was active that the baby was still in it.
no.
They didn't
This
wait till
year
they
the parents lost their eggs on the last few days of incubation, or they lost them on the first few days after hatching. I am not sure which, but they lost their young somewhere in April. They disappeared, and the birds were no longer incubating the eggs or what we call brooding the young.
Predator came and took
No, I don't think so. What we now think was, when we examine this tree, there is one big cut put in this tree earlier than the cuts that were took out the big wedge and actually caused us to know about the cutting. And I think that the birds were disturbed by a person cutting halfway through. That person didn't succeed in falling the tree because it started to lean
Maybe
back
it's
on the
the rain.
saw, and he had to put big wedges in to get his saw. We can see that. But we think that's what disturbed the eaglets. At least that's what I think. It was when he made that first cut, it put the eagles off, and they lost probably the eggs, because you only leave them for a few hours and they die. Or it was the newly hatched chick. It was right in that week period of hatching or not hatching. Then the birds stayed here. I mean, this is their territory. They've been here for years, at least we know of. So they stayed here. They were here all the time in the tree and back and forth. In fact, I saw them in this tree on the 22nd or 3rd, whichever, I forget now whether it was the 24th or the 5th that the tree came down. I saw them 2 days before that sitting in the tree. They're still here. They're still holding the territory.
Is the audio okay?
Before they would go north on that migration that Mike talked about, and before they come back again in the fall. So the birds were here holding their territory against any other invader right to the last, and then they've left.
Thanks.
And now they're about to come back again in another month. And that's what we wanted to do. Surrey knew this, the Fish and Wildlife Branch knows this, and they said, well, David, when do you want to have this tree in here by? And I said the September 10th would be good. We have a few days of grace. And they said, great, get a pole, get a nest. But then the city has backed off. They backed off because they didn't really have the permission to trespass on this private developer's property, and he's holding out against that. So I hope that when the time comes, we all hold out against this gentleman building this great horrendous subdivision. The way the plans were, they're quite old plans, but it shows this nest right in the foyer of one of his multi-story buildings, and he obviously didn't want that. So his method was to cut out. At least that's my hypothesis.
But we don't know for sure. Right?
We don't know for sure, but I have, I've been dealing, as Mike said, for 65 years, and I've never known roving bands of guys with 6-foot chainsaws running around the country cutting down eagles. I find the option of not the developer not a plausible option. I'm sorry. You may want to be very cautious, but there's a level of cautiousness versus nonsense.
So if the eagle's nest is protected by BC law,
It is.
obviously it isn't, is the developer in any way liable? Like,
Yeah,
are there penalties? Like,
Major penalty. Yeah.
There's somebody here who, if they want to speak up and address this, I'd like them to, but I'm not going to call on them to.
okay.
I'm giving a moment.
Seems to me
I know
like
there's
that
somebody here who addresses this.
Being able to like run roughshod over all the laws of the land and go ahead and make his millions of dollars, and we the people are basically left to put up with it. And I find that a little bit unconscionable.
So there's two issues, simple here. One is, lots of people have seen a stop sign and they've driven through it. So the fact that there's a law doesn't mean that it's always upheld by individuals, let alone communities.
Understood.
Yeah, so that's the one simple issue. The guy
But
just
that's not
has had this
entirely
cut down.
devastating to our ecosystem.
No,
right?
and now, precisely. So now the issue is, are they going to track down the person who fell
The eagle
this
nest was
and/or
deliberately
hold
cut down.
the developer, the landowner, responsible?
Okay.
Now, there are government agencies presently investigating this. We need to this group is going to put the pressure on them to bloody well succeed. That's the point. There's also one of the citizens, I don't think they're here, I don't know if they're here, somebody has hired a private investigator.
Awesome.
And he's interviewed me, and I know he's about to interview a number of people, including callers, to find out who did
Yes,
this.
bald eagles.
So I'm very hopeful that between the government and the private people that they figure out who did this, convict him, and then we'll go from there. In the meantime, I was hoping to have this tree put up, the nest put up, and for when the birds came back. This seemed, yeah.
The reason, sorry, if I just say one relevant thing. The reason I gave the context of the eagle's life history is that eagles will not tolerate invasion of their nests. If you're mucking around in their nest, they will go. And so you have not much more than a month. If you're going to put up an artificial nest, it has to be done when they're not here. Yeah. If you're working when they're sitting in that tree over there, you're out of luck. So there is a time element.
Yes, good. I'll do that right now. So, yeah, if there's any other questions.
I had a question, David. What could have the developer done responsibly to keep both the nest and his...
Good question. It's a
going
very
here?
simple thing. They're supposed to have an ecological study done and do what they call a mitigation plan. What would result? What could people do to make it better for eagles, so that the nesting territory could continue? There's pretty simple things that we could have done, and we've done this on many, many nests. This particular developer decided not to go that route, not to cooperate, not to even ask. We think he just cut it down. I can't see anybody else randomly cutting this down. So he could have had a study done, and we could have come up with a plan to accommodate these eagles.
So what can people do to put pressure on City Hall to get your pole up in a month? Yeah.
So call City Hall, be outraged. That's the point. That's what this is. It's a Croydon bald eagle nest outrage meeting, and then if you express your outrage to the city, express it to the province of British Columbia.
City Hall. Who do they express their outrage to?
The mayor and the councillors, but it's the City Hall, the planning department, that really is behind it.
Asking the candidates would probably be better, because Linda Heffler will not do anything. So ask the candidates who's going to replace her.
That's who you ask.
Good point. All right.
Thank you all for coming today. It's wonderful to see so many people, and do write those letters, and we appreciate it. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank
Or
you,
Karen, I mean. Yeah, thank you, Karen. Good. So, sure. Let's have a little let's have a little gathering of masked people.
So those of you who haven't seen this, that's the nest here. Sorry. That's. Can you just point out something there about the nest?
Me?
David? Yes,
yeah.
please.
Well, this is the actual nest. I mean, this was about 6.5, 7 feet across. It was about 2.5 feet deep. And it had been 8, 9 years. So every winter, the storms decrease the size of the nest, but every spring and winter and spring, the eagles add more material. So it kind of becomes an equilibrium, what wears off and what is added. And it's been a very successful nest. The birds have access to Semiahmoo Bay to the south, and Mud Bay and the Nichole River to the north. And so they're a very successful pair normally.
Actually, the construction around here fed a lot of them, because as buildings knocked down, the rodents came out and became food for the chicks.
It happened quite recently. Look at my past broadcast.
Sure, right here?
Yeah, right here.
Okay.
So go ahead.
I'm sitting down. I got it easy.
The press is getting in. Okay, we'll get out of here. Okay, so if you want to see, I did a broadcast a few weeks ago when it happened. I don't have the exact date in my head. Maybe Nichole can look it up. I forgot it, but it was somewhere around the 22nd, I think, of August or so, if I remember correctly. You could see the community here.
Jody. Oh, is your name
Yes, hi Michelle, nice to see you. Yes, but that's one of many nests, and in Florida you have a lot of eagles, of course, but there may be other regions that are not so well protected, right? That's the way it goes, and you know, with some of the lack of enforcement, which you have both in the U.S. and in Canada, that's what can happen. So you may be happy in your local area, but we have to look at the global picture here.
Anyway, nice to see you.
Yes, gentlemen, go. So I'm here. We are a few miles off the border. Okay, so if you go a bit more south, of course you have to go south from Canada, but almost all of Canada lives along the 49th. You may know that. 80–90% of the Canadian population lives along the 49th latitude, which is the border. And then if you go more north, you end up in the cold in most regions. So we are very close to 49th too. That's a highway, that's Highway 99. If you go south on Highway 99, you come straight to the border. So we are very close. We're fairly close, a couple of miles off. So if you look on the map, you look just in South Surrey for 24th Avenue and 160th Street going into Croydon, because this is called the Croydon Nest, Croydon Drive. That's where we are at the moment. That's where the nest is, okay? Have to go now. Thanks, Mac Lady. Thanks for being here as usual. Very nice. Okay, I'm just going to flip the camera quickly. Let me just do this. Yeah. So, as you can see, I've become a little bit wet too, which is fine. I mean, this is what you do in British Columbia. I wanted to thank you all for actually taking a Sunday and taking time to watch all this. Is quite fantastic. So I hope the sound was okay, because I don't actually have a lot of rain protection for the things I'm doing here. Wait, let me just, let me go so you can have a good look at this. Yeah, nice to see you. Yeah, Osprey Mama, you can wish you had this in Florida. Well, the rain has started. The summer has stopped here abruptly, like it always does in Canada. So thanks, Jackie. Thanks, everyone. Another Jackie, both Jackie Porter and Jackie Laughlin, thank you. Sound was good, that's good to know. I'm glad, and thanks for all the donation. That's what covers me, covers all the roaming costs that I have and so on, which is marvelous, because I'm going to continue doing this. And I'm very happy to be able to broadcast this, and I wish there were more like me able to broadcast such, such things live, which they're not. So, hi Jenny, very nice. Thank you for all your work, for supporting. The same with Nicole, thank you very much. Miss Murphy, oops, I got a fly there, I couldn't read that. Idora, thank you very much. And Carol McLaughlin, thanks for all being here. Osprey Mama, I've seen Dana and many others, so thank you so much for having been here. Thanks, Carrie Miller. Eva, oh, I can't read it in the rain. Nick Tia, is that right? Thank you too, and thanks for being here. I really appreciate that you know, this is something that goes across the borders. I don't want to add anything. There were such nice words spoken. So, it's wonderful to see you all. So, I will be back, not on Friday, but I'll be back in Friday week. Thanks, Sherry. Blue24, wonderful. Donate with PayPal, thank you very much. And I know that some of you donate by PayPal. I really appreciate that too. Tree climbing, great to have you here. That's great. I don't think I've seen you before. Some of you, most of you have seen, but some of you have not seen the broadcast, so thank you so much. Osprey Mama, yeah, thanks. So I'm going to go head back home now, which is about half an hour drive. And yeah, then I'm going to enjoy my Sunday like many Canadians do is inside. Okay, well, my iPhone's getting really wet now, so I better stop the broadcast and clean my iPhone before it drowns. Okay, let's see if I can manage to stop this whole thing. I don't know, I can never manage this. Wait a sec, I'm going to flip my camera, and so you don't have to see my finger trying to stop the broadcast because it's so wet I can't touch the screen. Ah, there we go. Okay, I got it now. I got it. Thanks a lot. Okay, bye. Thanks. Have a lovely Sunday.